All right, Christina, I'm ready if you are.
Sounds good. Do you want me to kick things off, or you want to say a few words first? Okay.
You can go for it.
Okay. Well, hi, everyone. Thanks for being here today. I actually think the last time we did one of these with Stephen at Bloomerang, there was snow on the ground, or at least there was where I am, and now it's a steamy about 92 degrees here. So hopefully this lunch and learn session will be exactly what you need to escape from the heat today. But we are excited to be with Bloomerang's Chief Engagement Officer, Stephen Shattuck, who will be giving us the lowdown on how nonprofits can both engage and retain donors by making budget-friendly videos. I know I'm excited for this topic. And for anyone who doesn't know me, I am PANO's Director of Learning and Education, Christina Spadaro, and I'm very, very excited to work with Bloomerang as a partner. So before we get into any of the meat for today, I wanted to give a quick shout out to the entire team over at Bloomerang, who is always incredibly responsive. They're thoughtful, they're professional, not to mention fun to work with, and they embody so much of what we value here at PANO in terms of getting out of our silos, figuring out how we can all be the best versions of ourselves to accomplish more for our communities. And that's ultimately what our mission is here at PANO. We exist to amplify the impact of the work that you are all doing out in the field. For anyone who might not know what PANO stands for, I find myself making this mistake a lot. Not everybody is familiar with the acronym. PANO stands for the Pennsylvania Association of Nonprofit Organizations. And a big part of why we exist is to support the work that the nonprofit community is doing throughout our Commonwealth. And I think some of what I hear all too often is that we forget about retaining donors once we have them in the door, or we prioritize the ask over stewardship because we all are working with limited resources. So one of the many reasons that we at PANO love having Bloomerang as a partner is not only do they offer a user-friendly, streamlined donor management and fundraising database that helps make donor retention easier, but they also offer the education, which I think, as the Director of Learning and Education, I'm a big fan of, because the education really helps us understand all the tools, the resources, the skills that we need to really maximize our donor databases. And in case you weren't aware, PANO members do get a 10% discount off of Bloomerang services. So check that out. You can find out more about that discount, about PANO membership, or about any of our other upcoming training opportunities at our website, www.pano.org. That's P-A-N for nonprofits, O.org. That's all I've got. So thanks again, Stephen, for your partnership and for your expertise. And I'm happy to turn things back over to you so we can dig in.
All right, cool. Well, thanks, Christina. That was very kind, and I would just echo all those sentiments. We love PANO. We love partnering with you guys. I really want to come out to your event in October, but I'm about to have a baby, so I'm kind of grounded. But I'll be with you in spirit for sure, and I'm sure we'll do some more webinars. So thanks to all of you for being here. Yeah, exactly. And I guess we should say thanks to all of you for taking 90 minutes out of your day. I'm sure you're super busy, but thanks for doing this and making an investment in your own continuing education. I'll try to live up to it. So just a little bit about me. Like Christina said, I work at Bloomerang, and I think I have a pretty similar role to her. I do all of our education content as well. So if you see me on another webinar or maybe another conference, come say hi. Let me know you met me. Love doing this kind of stuff. And maybe you're wondering why a donor database guy is doing a presentation on video. Well, it's true, we're at Bloomerang and we do donor management software, but my first love is actually video production. I was a film major in college, and I actually studied the French New Wave film movement. So if any of you know what that is, send me a chat later. We can geek out about it if you want. But how I got into nonprofit is I graduated and I went to work for a marketing agency, because that's kind of one of the few avenues open to liberal arts majors, other than maybe nonprofit and some other things. Maybe you know what I'm talking about there. But the agency that I went to go work for just happened to specialize in fundraising videos. So this is how I got into the sector originally. So I was creating videos that would be shown maybe at galas or big fundraising events. I did actually a lot of direct mail pieces. Back then we were still sending DVDs in the mail to donors and potential donors. and later on we were creating website videos and then more digital content like that. So this is really kind of my first love. So I always love speaking on this topic. I don't get to do it very much just because my day-to-day is usually more in kind of the donor management, but there's definitely a lot of parallels. So if you're wondering why this presentation is happening, that hopefully will give you some more context. But I kind of want to set the table before we begin and kind of outline some philosophies and some thoughts that I'm having as I'm going through this presentation. I kind of want to break through some maybe things that we think about video that I don't think are necessarily true. So if you think these ideas are a little bit radical, that's good. I kind of want to get you a little bit out of your comfort zone this morning. So video. I think that low quality video is okay. And in fact, I think it can be better than high quality video in a lot of cases. And I'm going to kind of make the case for that this morning over the next 90 minutes or so. Editing isn't always necessary. Sometimes a roadblock or maybe a barrier to getting into creating videos is, well, we can't edit video. We don't have editing software. We don't have someone who knows how to do that. Well, I want to say to you folks this morning that, hey, that may not actually be necessary. And again, it may actually even hamper you. So don't worry too much about that. I'll make a case for that. Equipment, another roadblock. But the good thing about being here in 2018 when we are recording this webinar is that is really kind of going away. Everyone that has a smartphone, maybe an iPhone or a nice, Android or Samsung phone, wherever you have got a video camera in your pocket that is higher quality than the five-figure camera equipment that I was using 15 years ago to create very polished videos. So that equipment thing is not really an issue anymore either. The best video that your organization can have doesn't have to be created by someone on your staff or someone that you pay, that you hire to do. It may be something that a supporter or another constituent creates for you. So we're going to talk about crowdsourcing content a little bit as well. Your most powerful video is not something, or doesn't have to be something that you conceive of in a maybe a communications committee or a marketing team meeting. I think some of the best video content is not planned. It's serendipitous. That's the word you're going to hear me say a lot this morning. But we need to be able to capitalize on that serendipity and keep our eyes open to those moments that we might want to capture on video. The videos you create don't have to ask for money to raise money. And this is kind of an old adage that I'm going to apply to video. The old saying, if you want money, ask for advice, and if you want advice, ask for money. That definitely applies to video, and I'm going to show you some examples of that. And your most important audience are people who are already connected with you. A lot of times when we go into a video production meeting, we think, well, we want to create a video to get the word out to people who don't know us yet. And we forget about the supporters that we already have. Maybe we can use video to retain and engage those people that are already in our community. And that is kind of in the title of the presentation. So maybe you're wondering, why are we talking about retaining and engaging? Why aren't we talking about videos that raise money or videos that result in people writing bigger checks or upgrading? All that stuff is good, and that will come of this. But to me, you have to start with retention and engagement. I believe that everything kind of flows from there. And if you don't start there, it can be very difficult to raise money and get upgrades from people and further interactions from people. And if you know anything about Bloomerang, or maybe you've heard me speak before or read anything that I've written, you know that we love donor retention. We are obsessed with donor retention. And I hope that doesn't annoy you that I start there. But I really think that donor retention is the most important thing that we can look at as fundraisers, as nonprofit communication professionals, whatever your job title is. It should be something that everyone in the organization focuses on. And I kind of framed the video conversation because we are not very good at retaining and engaging donors. This data that you're seeing here is from the Fundraising Effectiveness Project, which is this really cool think tank that studies donor retention on an annual basis. They put out an annual report that just kind of takes the temperature of the donor retention situation in nonprofits in North America, at least. It's North American data. I'm involved with FEP. I love it. It's really rewarding volunteer work that I do. And it's also very eye-opening. When I show these stats to fundraisers who maybe have never seen this data before, it's usually pretty surprising. We only retain about 46% of the donors who give to us every year. So someone who gives in 2017, only about 46% of those people are going to give again in 2018. So less than half. So every single year we lose more than half of the donors that gave in the previous year. This is a big problem, right? This represents a lot of potential lost revenue and a lot of wasted dollars on trying to get those people to give again. And it gets even worse if you look at first-time donors. So that average number, that's across all donor frequencies and recencies. But for first-time donors, people who've only given their one and only gift, we're only retaining about 32% of those people. So 2/3 of first-time donors do not make a second gift. And to me, this is the scariest stat because there's a high likelihood of negative ROI associated with that. Let me break that down. If someone gives you $25, if their first donation is maybe $25, but it costs you $30 to acquire that donor, you've got negative ROI, right? Even though they donated, which is good, you haven't broken even on the cost to acquire that donor. And most first-time donors do have that sort of negative differential in the cost per acquisition. But then what do? We spend even more money marketing to them, maybe sending direct mail and putting on events and things like that, only for them to never give a second gift. So it can really be a money pit in a lot of ways. But the good news is that if you can get a second gift from a donor, that retention rate more than doubles to 64%. And if you can get a monthly commitment from donors, they're locked in practically. They're above 90% retention. So what I want to do is kind of give you some ideas of maybe how you can use video to help these retention rates, because to me it's problem number one. We need to keep the people who are already in the fold, right? We don't want to go out and convince new strangers to donate to our organization because it's very costly, it's time-consuming, and I think most importantly, it's not as fun as keeping the people you already have. Of course, we want to acquire new donors. Of course, we want to do that because we're not going to get 100% retention. But to me, job number one should be retaining these people who are already in the database. And since FEP has been looking at this problem for about the last 13 or 14 years, it's not really something that is improving. In fact, it's pretty much staying the same, even though we're up 0.5% over the course of the last 12 years. That's not very good. That's still a really low number. And you could kind of make the argument that things have gotten worse, even though this is flatlined, because every single year it's harder to fundraise. There's more nonprofits in the marketplace. It's more crowded. There's more competition. Wages aren't growing, right? We've seen that in other studies. So even though the donors are there, the bodies are there, not necessarily does that represent any growth in giving. So I show this slide to people because there's a real opportunity to stand out amongst the crowd, right? There's an opportunity to be good stewards to our donors and show appreciation and report on outcomes and all those things that donors want. Because most organizations do not focus on retention. They focus on new donors, bottom line revenue, and those things are fine, but I think everything sort of flows from the retention issue. So other trend lines. One piece of good news is that first-time donor retention number is actually improving, that 32% number. That is on a 5-year increase, which is good, but it's still a really low number, right? It's less than 2/3 of first-time donors give again. So we definitely want to keep that improving, but I would not necessarily rest on our laurels even though that it is improving. For repeat donor retention, pretty much staying the same. It was 64%. 5 years ago, it vacillated a little bit, dropped a little bit, but now it's back at 64%. So you can pretty much feel confident that if you do get that second gift, those people are going to stick around for at least a little bit while longer. But here's the real killer in my mind. The recapture rate has been dropping over the last 5 years. So this is the percentage of people who lapse, but then they come back after another year or so. So only 5% of lapsed donors are going to come back again if you do nothing. So you're maybe sitting here saying, well, that's okay if a donor lapses. They'll probably come back or maybe they'll come back on their own. Some will, for sure, if you do nothing. 5% of them are going to, but that's a really small amount, right? So don't lose donors, because if you lose a donor, it is very, very hard to get them to come back once they have lapsed, once they missed that year of giving. What about retention by organization type? So I know you're all in Pennsylvania, but I'm guessing that you have a lot of different sorts of missions and causes here in the room. The good news is that there isn't really a cause that does a lot worse in terms of retention than other causes. Really the only standout are faith-based organizations. They tend to do a little bit better in terms of their retention rates, but pretty much everyone is between that 50 and 40% number, 40% to 45%. So, don't think that it's maybe harder for you than another type of org. I think pretty much everyone is in the same boat, which is good, and I think that means we can all kind of focus on the same thing. So what are the results of this? So maybe you're sitting here wondering, okay, we're 45%, we're 60%, we're 30%. What does that actually mean for our organization? Well, this is just a kind of a quick illustration of how fast your donors will evaporate out of your donor database at a pretty average donor retention rate of 60%, which of course is an attrition rate of 60%. So we'll just kind of look at this bottom row here. 40% retention, pretty average, maybe a little bit below average. And let's say that organization who has a 40% retention rate or a 60% attrition rate starts off with 1,000 donors in their database, so in their Boomerang or Razor's Edge or Excel or whatever you're using. Well, right off the bat, after 1 year, 600 of those donors are gone, right? They're out of the database. You're down to 400 people that are still donating. Now, 5% of that 600 may come back naturally, but that's, again, a really small percentage. That's like 10 donors, I think, if my arithmetic is correct, 10 or 11. And then look what happens over the course of 4 or 5 years. You're down to 10 donors after 5 years. So at a 40% retention rate, we are basically starting over. We're churning our entire database every 5 years. So every 5 years, you got to go out and convince 1,000 new strangers to donate to your organization. This is not very sustainable, folks. This is why I think fundraising is so difficult, especially major gift fundraising, because these 10 donors, that's kind of your major gift pipeline, right? Those 10 donors. We need donors to be giving a long time for them to be giving major gifts and bequests and things like that. This is scary to me, right? I don't know about you, but that does not sound very fun to every single year go out and try to replenish this bucket. Let's instead try to keep the bucket from leaking, right? That should be job number one. And of course, you are never going to get to 100% retention. Some donors want a one-time engagement. Some donors are going to pass away. Some donors are going to go through financial difficulties. You're not going to get 100 to 100%. That's not why I'm here today. I don't want you to feel really bad. But we can do better than 40%, and I think we can certainly do better than 32% on the first-time donor side. And you can get a lot of extra money. This isn't a way to avoid or be distracted by trying to raise money. This is your money-raising strategy. A 10% difference in retention can mean a lot of extra money for your organization. You can see this is 2 pretend organizations. One has a 41% retention rate. One has a 51% retention rate. And you can see how much more the organization with the 51% retention rate raised, almost $500,000 more from those retained donors. That's a small change, right? Only 10%. Sometimes Boomerang customers will tweet me or email me and say, hey, Stephen, we went from 45% to 47%. And even though it's only 2%, a small change, I know that can be a lot of extra money from those retained donors. So if you're thinking, should we shoot for a particular retention rate? What should be our goal? My thought is improve it. Go for an improvement. Go for a 1% or a 2% improvement. Don't get stars in your eyes about going from 40% to 60%. That's a pretty big jump. You may disappoint yourself. You may burn yourself out. Go for a 1% change, a 2% change. And we're gonna give you some ideas of how video can help. Video is not a magic bullet. It should not be the only channel or solution that you go for. But I think it's a low-hanging fruit, and that's kind of why I designed our presentation specifically for video. So why is this happening? Why are donors leaving? Why aren't donors being retained? What do donors want that engages them? I'm going to kind of make the case for why video is a really good channel based on what donors want, at least what they have said they wanted. So this first study I want to share with you looks at this question: why do donors lapse? Why do they stop giving? Why do they suddenly stop giving to organizations that they had previously been donating to? And this is a question that a hero of mine, Adrian Sargent, wanted to answer. He went out and did a study in 2001 to answer this question. What he did was he reached out to 10 very large U.S.-based nonprofits, so like giant nonprofits, household names. You can read the study if you want, names you would definitely recognize. The goal there was to get access to a large list of lapsed donors. So the idea was the larger the organization, the longer they've been around, hundreds of years in some cases, they're going to have a lot of donors that stop giving. And what he did is he surveyed those lapsed donors with those organizations' permission, basically asking them one simple question: hey, why did you stop giving to this nonprofit? And they got a lot of responses, enough to do the report. And I want to show you kind of the aggregated responses. So they don't all add up to 100%, I know, because some answers were sort of combined because they were similar. People could give multiple answers in some cases. But these are the reasons why these lapsed donors gave. So 5% of them said that they thought the nonprofit no longer needed their support. So there wasn't like a clear case for support, maybe not a compelling ask. Something like that happened, or didn't happen, I should say, and they stopped giving completely. 8%, and this is something we're going to talk about a lot over the next hour or so, they wanted to know how their donation dollars were spent. They wanted to know, hey, what's the impact? What was the outcomes of my gift? What was the output of your organization? They wanted to get that information back from the nonprofit, and they didn't get it, and they gave elsewhere. So donors really kind of see their gifts as an investment, and they want to know what their return on that investment is. And that's something you can do through a variety of channels. You can definitely do it through video. So kind of spoiler over there, we're going to talk about that. 9% had no memory of supporting the organization, which is always sort of weird for me. They donated, but they had over time forgotten that they used to support that organization. And if you're wondering why, well, maybe the next answer can shed some light on that. 13%, a whopping 13% of these lapsed donors never got thanked. So if you want to increase your retention rate by 13%, at least from this pool of donors, thank your donors, right? And this isn't even saying that it's a fast thank you or a personal thank you or something, that really knocks the socks off the donor. Just a thank you in general. You would be surprised how many organizations don't thank certain donors, maybe under dollar amount thresholds or certain channels. It's pretty common, but all donors, I think, deserve to be thanked. And we're going to look at ways to do that through video, so another spoiler. 16% of these lapsed donors that actually passed away, so I kind of alluded to this before. This makes sense. The average donor, at least in the United States, is, I think, over the age of 60. I believe it's a 60-year-old woman, so that kind of baby boomer generation. They're older. They are eventually going to die. So this is something that I think we should keep in mind as we sort of market to donors in the future. 18% had received poor service or communication from the nonprofit. So there are a lot of ways that this one was unpacked. Perhaps they were using communication preference or not honoring a communication preference, I should say. Unsegmented communications is a common one here. Maybe asking for an inappropriate gift amount, whether it be too high or too low, and you can definitely ask for a gift amount that's too low from maybe a major donor. But making sure your donor communications just kind of makes sense for that recipient. And we're going to talk about that for sure, maybe even crafting a video just for one recipient. 36% thought others were more deserving. And of course they're going to think others are more deserving if they're getting poor service or if they're never getting thanked or if they're not reporting on outcomes. So all these things are actually kind of the same thing, right? A little over half of these things really just kind of boil down to communication. in stewardship. And then a little over half said that they could no longer afford their gift, which is the most common answer given in donor loyalty studies. You'll see that in other studies besides this one. There's not much we can do about financial difficulties of our donors. Whether that's true or not, I don't know. I think if I was approached by someone for not supporting a nonprofit, I think that's kind of an easy answer to give, to just kind of get out of the conversation. But I think we also do a bad job of downgrading donors, right, or maybe even encouraging downgrades rather than a complete lapse. If someone's going through financial difficulties, I can't give $100 anymore, but I can still give $20. Hey, $20 is still really valuable, and this is what we can do for that gift, and we still really appreciate it. So don't be afraid to do those kinds of things, just as an aside. But like I said, communication, engagement, right? Stewardship. I think we have a stewardship problem here in the sector, and that's why donors lapse at such a high rate compared to maybe the for-profit sector and customer retention rates. So why do donors stay? What about that 40 to 60% of donors who hang around? What do nonprofits do well to keep those people in the fold? This is a question that the Donor Voice wanted to answer back in 2011. Donor Voice, they're awesome. They're this really cool research agency. They put out a lot of free content and reports and studies like this one. I would definitely check out their website. It's a wealth of knowledge and information. But I love this study because it just backs up so many things that the top consultants have been saying for hundreds of years, literally, about stewarding donors. So what Donor Voice did is they identified 250 nonprofits here in North America, all kinds of shapes and sizes. It wasn't like Adrian Sargent's survey where they are only targeting 10 very large nonprofits. So this was a wider swath of the sector. And what they did is they had identified 1,200 donors from those 250 nonprofits that were highly engaged and that had been retained over a long period of time. So more than 5 years, I believe, was the threshold. They've been giving multiple gifts within the same calendar year. They upgraded. There were a few other engagement signals, but these are like the cream of the crop donors. And what Donor Voice wanted to know was, what are the nonprofits that have been able to keep these people around doing so well? What is it that these donors are saying that the nonprofit does well for why they keep donating? So what they did is, rather than asking them that open-ended question, they gave them a list of 32 reasons why they might keep giving, and they asked those loyal donors to rank them by order of importance or resonance with them. So I want to share with you the top 7 reasons that they gave, or that was reported by these loyal donors, for a couple reasons. If you do these 7 things, you're going to retain donors. It doesn't matter what channel you use. It can be video, direct mail, phone, in-person, your events. Everything you do should flow from these top 7 signals. The other reason I share is they almost directly mirror and correlate from Adrian Sargent's survey, which was 10 years prior, different data set, different donors, different organizations. It totally syncs up. So check it out. Here are the top 7 reasons the loyal donors gave. So number 1 was that the donor thinks the nonprofit produces outcomes, that the nonprofit is effective in trying to achieve its mission. So they're reporting to the donors on the outcomes of the organization. Hey, we're an animal shelter. These are the animals that are getting adopted. This is the euthanasia rate that is dropping. This is the stray, pet population in town that is dropping. All those data points, all those stories. We need to report to donors those things on a consistent and very frequent basis. And video is one way we're going to do that, and we're going to talk about that. Number two is always kind of interesting to me. It kind of stands out from the rest of the 7, and it's ranked really high. It's the number 2 reason. So the donor knows what to expect from you with each interaction. To me, the parallel of this is the core service or communication from the Sargent survey. We want to be creating communications that are targeted for a very distinct and small audience, as small as we can get, even one particular recipient. So that means we're not sending the same newsletter to the entire list. We're not sending the same acknowledgement, appeal, stewardship piece. We are segmenting our communications based on donor types, frequencies, recencies, gift amounts, demographics. There's a kind of a limitless way to segment our communication. but we're going to craft content that is as close to being made just for that person as possible. And we're going to look at some individual videos that fit that bill for sure. Number 3, of course, donors want to be thanked, but they want to be thanked quickly. The faster you can get a gift acknowledgement out the door, that has been shown to increase retention and engagement. Donors are impressed when they're thanked quickly. It shows that they really care, and it makes them feel like they're your only donor in a lot of ways. And again, video, we're going to talk about ways to do that for sure. 4, feedback. Donors love it when you request feedback from them. Now, that's not something that video can do very well, but it is something that can be maybe a complementary to video that you produce, and we'll talk a little bit about that as well. But asking donors how they feel about you, are we giving them good service? Do they feel engaged in the organization? Donors will love it when you ask them questions about how they feel and about themselves. So if you aren't surveying donors, just as an aside, it's really important. That's the number 4 engagement signal, at least according to this study. 5 is kind of similar to number 1. They feel like they're part of an important cause. So not only that you have an important cause and that you are producing outcomes and you're reporting on those outcomes, but that the donor feels a part of that process. Donor centricity, I think, is a really good way to sum up number 5. They're in the fight with you. They're not just this silent ATM off in the corner. Yes, they are a funder, but they're almost an adjunct employee, right? They're the change agents. They're the one making these things happen through your gift. So donor centricity is something we're going to look at as we craft these video communications. 6, very similar to number 3, we want that donor to feel appreciated. We want to thank them. We want to go overboard with appreciation at all times, not just right when a gift happens, but throughout the year for sure. And then 7, again, very similar to number 1. Hey, who's being helped? Who are the kids being served? Who are the families being served? Who are the animals being helped? What's the environment that's being helped? Always reporting on those stories really keeps donors engaged in the mission. So even though this is a list of 7 things, it's really only, I think, 2 or 3 things. It's thanking donors and going overboard in their appreciation, and reporting on outcomes, telling donors all the great things that they are doing through their gift. Not what the nonprofit is doing through the gift, even though all of you listening today, you're doing the work. I understand that for sure. But put it through the lens of the donor. They're the change agent. Their dollars are making all these things happen. So how are we going to do these things through video? You can thank donors and report and solicit feedback and all those great things through every single channel, direct mail, handwritten notes, phone, your events, your digital content, social media. But don't be afraid to do it through video also. Video is a really, really great way, especially to thank donors and to report on outcomes. Really kind of focus on those 2 things. It's a good way to ask for money for sure, but remember what I said before. You can thank and report on donors and not ask for money directly, but you will still get donations in the process because most nonprofits do not focus on stewardship. They focus on asking, and their asks sometimes fall flat because of that. Everything has to be framed as, you're an awesome donor. We thank you so much for your support. This is what your support is doing. We need more help, rather than kind of flipping the pyramid and starting with, hey, we need help. That's usually the killer mistake that people make. So we are going to focus on videos that show the need, right, that say thank you, that show the impact of the gift, and that build a relationship. So often videos are made for everyone, right? We go out and we say, hey, we need to make a video for our nonprofit. We need a video that's going to sit on our homepage that just kind of tells the story of our organization, and it's for anyone who happens to see it. And then that's usually the beginning and the end of our video strategy, right? It's something that is one size fits all, but what mold I want to break you out of is, you should be creating many, many videos for as many recipient types as possible, even down to one recipient. You should be making a video for one donor. And if you're thinking, oh my gosh, Stephen, that sounds like a lot of work. I can barely get, thank yous at the door, thank you letters. We've got an event coming up. I understand. I've been in your shoes. I'm going to give you some ideas of how you can make that process really easy. In fact, in a lot of cases, it may be faster and easier to make a thank you video than it is to make a thank you letter out of your CRM or your Razor's Edge or whatever you're using. Maybe not Boomerang. Boomerang's pretty easy. But depending on the video, you may actually be able to make something even faster than a letter out of a CRM that's really good. So that's what we're going to talk about. Now, what happens, like I said, is these are the videos that most nonprofits make. And I did this for 5 years. This is how I made money. This is the majority of the nonprofit videos that I made for people. And I feel bad about it in a lot of ways. They would come to us and they would say, hey, we need an About Us video. Some marketing person told us we need an About Us video, an overview video that sits on our website homepage and just tells a story. And I made a ton of those. I made a ton of those 3 to 5 minute videos where you sit the ED down and you interview them and they talk about, blah, 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 nonprofit does this, this, and this, and we were founded in 1970, whatever, and we would really appreciate your support. And this is not a good video. I'm actually kind of on a mission to get people to not make this video anymore because they're just not effective, in my opinion. They are not made for one particular person. And when you have a one-size-fits-all approach, typically it does not fit anyone's needs and does not speak directly to anybody. Another video that I see a lot more of even recently is kind of a generic, hey, thanks to the donor video. Maybe you make an online donation, and then you're sent a video that is maybe a volunteer on camera or someone on your leadership team or a board member, and they speak right into the camera and they say, hey, thanks so much for your donation. We really appreciate it. I think this video is okay. It's better in some cases than not having a thank you video, but it's very impersonal, right? Every single donor is going to get this video, regardless of whether they gave $10 or $1,000, or if they're a first-time donor or a 10-year donor. And there can be a lot of different things you want to say to those different donor types. But that doesn't happen because we have this one thank you video that we send to every single donor. Another one I see, and this one may annoy me the most, is in December and January, we send a thank you video to our entire list that talks about all the awesome things that our nonprofit did throughout the year. It's kind of the annual report video, right? Maybe some of you have done this. I'm not trying to tease you, I promise. I think sometimes these videos can be good. But again, what this suffers from is a one-size-fits-all approach. It goes to everyone, and it's usually not very donor-centric. It's very kind of organization-centric. And none of that research I showed you in the first half hour of this presentation supports that that's what donors want. Donors do not want that. They want to know specifically how they made a difference in the world, what their donation was used for. They want to be thanked for that support. They don't want to receive something that every single donor is getting. It's very impersonal. And people are getting more savvy to this, right? And they're going to kind of squint their eyes at it and say, yeah, you made that for everybody. You kind of slapped that together. It's all about the organization. It's not really about me, so it's going to get ignored. And then the fourth video that is the most common, and honestly I think this one annoys me the most, is we have an event. Maybe we have a gala or a fundraising dinner, or maybe we have a walk or a run or a golf tournament, and we hire a camera crew to come to that event and capture video of that event. And then we edit it together, and then after that event ends, we send that video to everybody and say, hey, we just had this great event. Look how much fun it was. Sorry you weren't there. Hope you come next year. And for people who didn't go to that event, I think it makes them kind of feel bad, right? Maybe they feel left out. There's kind of a fear of missing out. They see all these other people having fun, and maybe it creates some resentment. It doesn't generate interest in the next year's event because the next event is 11 months from now. They're not going to remember that video when registration opens up again, in 10 months. So I prefer, hey, why don't we create a video that promotes the event and generates registration rather than saying, hey, this event just happened. You missed a lot of fun. Doesn't this look like fun? Hopefully you'll be there next year. So to me, stop making these videos is my advice. Stop making that, generic About Us video that is, 3 to 5 minutes long. You get kind of a boring board member on camera. Maybe you get some other employees, and that's good, but no one cares about your building. No one cares that you were founded 176 years ago. Let's do something that is more targeted to our audiences, our different audiences. That, generic a thank you video, this is one that appears right after you donate, or maybe it's emailed to you. Hey, it's not bad. It's okay. I think this one is fine. It's maybe better than not having it. But what I want to do is I want to create this video, for every single individual, and it says their name, and it talks about what kind of donor they are. We're going to make hundreds of these videos. And then if you're feeling down, I think you'll feel like it's doable by the end of this presentation. The annual report video, boring, no one cares, it's not donor-centric. It's going to make people feel like all you're doing is kind of beating your own chest. Let's make a video that recaps all the things that the donor did in that year, and let's, again, make as many of them as possible for each individual donor, if it makes sense to you. And then the event recap video, just don't do this. I don't think this can be redeemed in any way. But I think it's a good idea to have a camera crew come to those events and capture footage. But let's create a great promotional video that is used in collecting registration for the next event, rather than making them feel bad about missing an event because you're sending them this weird recap that doesn't really make a lot of sense. So these videos, they don't really build their relationship, right? It's very hard because it's not made for one person. And if you want to build a relationship, you need to have a one-to-one conversation. At least a small group of segments are getting a video. But the best thing to do is to make something that's just for one recipient, because we want to move them up that pyramid. We want them to trust us. We want them to feel good about us. And we want them to really like us. We don't want them to feel like they're missing out, or that, it's all about the nonprofit and it's not about me, the donor. Let's stop this. Let's look at a new way to think about producing videos. So I have for you a three-part strategy. This is a three-part strategy that I recommend to Bloomerang customers, non-Bloomerang customers, any nonprofit who will listen to me. By the way, thanks for sticking around. None of you have left, which is really cool. But this is the strategy that I recommend people make. So number one, you're going to make videos that are personalized and they're for one recipient. So if you get a new donor, you're going to make a thank you video that thanks that one new donor. It is for them. And after you send them that video, you're not going to use that video again. So it's disposable content for sure. It's kind of a one-time use video, but it is so much more impactful than an About Us video that you update every 3 to 5 years, and it's not really made for one particular person. Now, most of these videos in this first category are going to be thank you videos, but it is possible and it is appropriate in some cases to make a video that maybe asks one person for money or maybe reports on their outcomes. I'm going to show you examples of all three so you can get that. But for the most part, we're going to be focusing on thank you videos. We're going to make dozens, hundreds of thank you videos every single month. And I know that sounds like a lot of work. I'm going to kind of break it down in a way that hopefully won't be so overwhelming. Number two, I want you guys, you folks, you guys and gals, all the time to be collecting video footage of mission moments around your organization. So what is a mission moment? A mission moment is something serendipitous, something entertaining, maybe emotional, that happens naturally in and around your organization. Now, if you are an animal welfare group, this is going to be really easy for you, right? A dog that got brought into the shelter, a dog that got adopted. If you're an organization that does maybe social services around kids, you can do this too. You definitely want to get permission because you're going to be dealing with minors. But hey, the first kid that graduated from your program, maybe a kid who gets a hearing implant for the first time and can hear for the first time, capturing those little mission moments should be something that is on your radar at all times. And this is going to kind of require you to think like a journalist and have that phone on you at all times and tell other people in your organization, hey, we are on the lookout for these things. If you see something cool or interesting or funny or emotional or unique happening, grab your cell phone and capture it. So we can get these clips out. They're non-edited, they're not polished, they may even be low quality in some cases, but these videos are absolutely golden. These little videos, a 10-second clip, think of kind of virality. I'm not saying that your goal should be making a viral video, but these kinds of videos tend to go viral more often than that, $5,000 produced 3-minute About Us video that has a talking head and interviews and B-roll and sits on your homepage. Those don't go viral. The people don't email those to each other. They email people and tweet people little 10-second clips of, a horse taking its first steps after, it's been injured and rehabilitated by a nonprofit. It's that kid who gets the cochlear implant and can hear for the first time in his life or her life. Those little mission moment clips should be a very, major foundation of your video strategy. Not, hey, we need to hire a camera crew, we need to make this about video, we need to make this event video. Those are okay, but you've got an awesome video camera in your pocket, and you can capture these mission moments every single day. And all of you listening, maybe you're sitting there wondering, we have a boring cause, or we do research, or we're involved with sensitive issues. There's no excuse. Every single organization can do this. It might be harder for other organizations. I definitely understand that, but everyone can do it. Then we are going to focus on professionally produced videos. And there are a few videos I'm going to suggest that you should pay someone to create. It's not any of the 4 that we talked about before. It may be something that you never thought of, but it is definitely appropriate to pay someone to make a very professional, polished, produced video that you use, and this is key, in very specific ways. And again, we're going to look at targeted audiences. We're going to look at individual recipients or segments, people that this video is made just for them. It's never going to be something that is made for the entire list. So what happens is most organizations, at least when I was in this business, they would focus on number 3 and not really worry about number 1 and number 2. And part of that was, that was 2005, 2006, and we didn't have awesome camera phones, and we didn't have social media and all these distribution methods. But now we do. So there is definitely a way to do number 1 and 2. So what I want to do is I just want to dive into all 3 and give you some examples of what I'm talking about, because I think it'll help illuminate and say, oh yeah, we can do this. This is definitely very doable, and it's not going to eat up your entire day-to-day. So number 1, personalized videos made for one recipient. Let me show you an example. So there's this organization here in Indianapolis. They help homeless youth in Indianapolis, homeless teenagers specifically. Great organization. Actually, a customer is how I kind of heard about them, and I've also had some friends who've worked there in the past. And we sent our Boomerang team to go volunteer at their location. We do a monthly volunteer trip. All of our employees go out, and we stop working for the day, and we go volunteer. And I couldn't make it that day. I was actually traveling. I was out of state. And I felt bad about that, and I went and made a donation to Outreach. And I started a monthly commitment because I knew about them. I knew they were a great organization. So I went online and made, I think it was like a $10 a month contribution, something like that, not very much. And I got this nice email from Mike, the Director of Development, that said, hey, Steven, thanks so much for becoming a monthly donor. You give us the ability to bring hope to homeless youth. So it was kind of a nice donor-centric sentence, right? It kind of puts the spotlight on me, not the donor. And then this blew me away, this next part, because I had never received anything like this. I'd seen it done, but I had never personally gotten anything like this. It says, I have made a quick 2-minute video for you to share what your monthly gift does for our mission. Click to view. I clicked that link, and I opened up this video that Mike, the Director of Development, made just for me. And since this is a webinar, I'm not going to try to show you all these video examples, but I have included links to all these. You can watch all these videos on your own time if you want. I definitely recommend you do that. But what this video is basically a webcam video. He's just sitting at his desk, talking into his laptop. He pulled up a picture and told me a story about what my donation is going to be used for. 2 minutes. He didn't edit it. I think it was a one-take deal, but it only took about 2 minutes, the length of the video, to make and send off to me. He simply just emailed me the link. I was totally blown away by it because now I'm getting something that I know no other donor is getting. He told me a personalized story that was contextualized based on the type of donor I am. I'm a new donor. I made a monthly commitment. And he knew I was kind of, I cared about the organization's sustainability, so he told me a story about that. And I was so blown away by it that I emailed him and I said, Mike, I work in donor communications. I've never seen this. You got to tell me about what you're doing here. And he said that anytime someone is a new donor or starts a monthly commitment or volunteers, those are his 3 main segments, he makes them a video like this. And he confirmed that it takes him less time to do this than it does to write a letter or write a handwritten note. And those things are good. I'm not saying don't do those things. But this is not something that sucks up a lot of his time during the day. But he said it has the highest ROI of any donor communications activity that he does. And I totally believe that because it's very personal. It's surprising. It delights the recipient. And it starts to build that relationship. So he makes something like 20 to 25 of these videos per week, I believe he said. He might have said per day, but it's definitely no more than per week. He shared with me some other examples that he's made. This is another a video that he made for a friend of mine who donated. Tells a different story based on the type of donor that is getting it. He makes these videos for volunteers. So this is the thank you video he sent to the Bloomerang team for their volunteer trip. So it talks about someone who directly benefited from the type of work we did at that volunteer outing. I know that's not a video made for one person, but it is a video made for one small group of people, right? That's okay. But we're not making a thank you to all volunteers video that we make once and we send out, for 5 years to every single volunteer that comes through. That's what I want to get away from. I want to get into your guys' head that, hey, we're going to make a video for one recipient at best, and at worst for a small group or a small segment of people. So I've done a couple write-ups on this strategy. He has been able to tie ROI to major gifts, even to some bequests, and he uses this really awesome tool that you can find. It's totally free. All you need is a webcam, and you can be making these things like crazy. I mean, you can get 20 to 25 off in an hour and be done and go about your day. That's what I'm talking about. So these one-to-one videos. There are lots of other organizations who are doing this. Social media is a great channel for this. These videos were distributed by email. But if you were to go to Twitter right now and search, thanks for donating, you would see all kinds of nonprofits. Not a lot of nonprofits do this, but the ones who do it are getting some good return on investment of people making thank you videos for one recipient and delivering them through Twitter. This one right here is a nonprofit theater group. They had, I believe, an online day of giving, and anytime someone who donated that they knew they were on Twitter, I think they asked for a Twitter account on the donation form. They would make a little video. They would sing into the camera, say thank you to the donor, and it was made just for them. But the beauty of this on social media is other people can see it, right? It's not like email where it's just one-to-one communication. And the weird thing that happens is 99 times out of 100, the recipient of these videos on social media will share it with their friends and followers. So it can be a really good way to get your content in front of other people, even though it was made for just one person. Universities do this all the time, especially if they have online days of giving. This was a campaign that Purdue University did a couple of years ago. I think it was like an alumni campaign. It was some sort of concentrated online day of giving. And they had a bunch of students just standing by all day in this makeshift video studio. And anytime someone donated where they had social media contact information or email contact information, they would make a quick thank you video just for that one donor. So they made probably thousands of these videos throughout the day. but it really knocks the socks off the recipients. And the cool thing is the recipient on social media, more likely than not, shared that video with their friends and followers because they want to show off that they are philanthropic, that they donate to organizations they support, and they want to say, hey, look how awesome this nonprofit is that I support. They really care about their donors. They take care of their donors. They appreciate their donors, and I'm proud to support these guys. Another university that does this, Whitworth here, again, students, service recipients, get service recipients on camera if it is appropriate. Say thank you right into the camera. 10 seconds, 15 seconds, not a big deal for sure. But what they do is, and some of you are probably already wondering this, is definitely get permission for the recipients. One way to do this on an online donation form is, hey, can we acknowledge you publicly in our publications, or do you want to stay anonymous? Give us your Twitter account. We want to say thank you on Twitter. That can be a good way to find out who these people are. What they don't do is they don't, look the person up and try to find social media accounts or email addresses or anything like that and make them a video, because some people do want to remain anonymous for sure. So there's lots of ways you can get kind of implicit and explicit permission, but get permission for sure if you want to do this. Another example, Diabetes UK. This was a specific campaign to thank peer-to-peer donors, so people that maybe did a walk or a run that raised money. So they're not thanking the donors necessarily who donated to those campaigns, but they are thanking the donors who, or they're thanking the fundraiser who generated those peer-to-peer funds. So again, quick, 7 seconds, 12 seconds. Hey, thanks so much for raising money for us. You're awesome. You're amazing. We appreciate you. Hundreds of these videos are getting produced daily. Very doable. You can do it on your phone. There's a bunch of free tools that I'll share with you later on. But this has really, really high ROI. It's personal. It's going to stand out amongst the other sorts of communications that they're getting from other nonprofits that may be boring, like a generic letter or generic email. Consider doing this. You can dip your toes in the water. Maybe you make one video a week, one video a day. Maybe it's just for first-time donors. Maybe it's for high-value donors, just to say, hey, we appreciate your support. We're thinking about you. These are all the awesome things you're doing. But consider it. Don't go out and say, hey, we need to hire a camera crew. We need to pay them $10,000 to make this beautiful, polished thank you video that we're going to send to every single donor for the next 5 years. Spend 5 minutes creating one video. It might be a little grainy and might be, the sound might be a little echoey. That's okay. It's going to show the donor that you cared enough about them to stop what you were doing, say thank you, and to say it personally. So this is kind of what I mean by those personalized one-to-one videos. So number 2, mission moments. It's kind of a buzzword type thing, but it really is, to me, the best way to describe it. So let me give you an example of what I mean by a mission moment video. So this is a perfect example because it coalesces with all the other things I've been saying. So this is a video that Greenpeace made. So Greenpeace, they do environmentalism. You probably, of course, have already heard of them. They hired a camera crew, expensive camera crew, professional camera crew, to go out to, I believe it was a national park here in the States, and set up a camera to shoot a time-lapse video. So if you know what a time-lapse video is, that's when they leave a camera out all day, maybe multiple days, and it's recording, and you do that kind of fast motion where you see a sunset really fast, and then you see the sunrise over a period of time. So they wanted to do this, beautiful, produced, time-lapse video they were going to use in some other big piece of media. But what happened is once they had the camera set up, this marmot, which is kind of like this rodent-type creature, came up and started licking the camera lens. It totally ruined the time-lapse because they had to start over. They had to clean the camera lens. But what they did really, I thought geniusly, is they created an email appeal that just shared the marmot video. Just 20 or 30 seconds of this adorable little rodent licking the camera. And if they're not a rodent, if you're an animal expert, I'm sorry if I'm saying the wrong thing, but it was a marmot. But anyway, they sent this out, and it generated thousands of dollars through this video because it was so adorable. It went viral to some extent. I really hate using the word viral because that is not a goal that I recommend you try to pursue, but it did go viral to some extent. And it generated more money, probably, this is an opinion of mine, than any sort of, beautifully produced time-lapse video would have done, because it showed an actual creature that Greenpeace is trying to help save. So this is what I mean by a serendipitous, unplanned mission moment that you happen to capture as it happens, and you get that out the door. And like I said, if you're an animal welfare group, this is probably going to be pretty easy for you. Animal shelters that are savvy do this all the time. Hey, we got this new animal. This is an animal that just got dropped off. This is an animal that just got adopted. Our supporter's great. Something funny or stupid that a dog or a cat does. Berkshire Humane Society, they are masters of this. They do this all the time. But everyone can do this, right? Every single mission type has its ability. It's easier with animals, of course, because you don't necessarily have to get permission. It's harder to exploit an animal in this way. If you're dealing with humans who are receiving your services, it's definitely important not to exploit people and definitely get people's permission. But there definitely are ways to do this. So here's another example. This is an adult day center here in Indianapolis that is a place of respite for caregivers who are dealing with maybe or are supporting someone with Alzheimer's or dementia, maybe an aging loved one. They can drop them off here. They can go to work and not worry about, are they getting the care they need. So what this organization does is they just capture pretty frequently just people, their guests enjoying, being at Joy's house. Maybe someone who is, playing the piano or playing a fun game, or, they're playing Wii bowling is something they do a lot, or gardening out in their gardens. You can show off, hey, these are the people that you are helping. They're having a great time. Their lives are being enriched by their time here. Capture those moments. Get them out the door. Get them out on social media, even daily. That is definitely something you can do. If you are worried about exploitation, and that is definitely something you should be concerned about, it doesn't have to be the service recipients directly that you were doing stories on or profiles of. Maybe it can be parents or relatives of someone who was helped, just kind of giving their testimony. This is an organization called Brooks Place that helps underserved youth. This was an interview that a mom did. She has one of her kids go to Brooks Place on a daily basis, just saying, man, Brooks Place is awesome. They've been a lifesaver for me. It's a place that my kid can go during the day so that I can go to work and not have to worry about money or child care or anything like that. So it doesn't have to be that you put a camera right on someone that's being served. You can maybe put it on someone who has been affected, maybe directly or indirectly by your mission, who can speak on behalf of that person. So don't be afraid of that as well. Just another example, a serendipitous moment. This is from a therapeutic riding center up here in northern Indiana. This was a moment where they had this kid who had been coming to the center for months, had been kind of struggling to ride the horse, but for the first time, the kid was able to ride the horse without some sort of special harness. I'm not really sure what the details were there, but it was kind of a milestone, right? And someone who was savvy enough to get out their phone captured that 10 to 15 second clip. They put it on social media and just said, hey, this is a kid that's been here for months. He was struggling, but we finally broke through and got over this milestone. And by the way, it's all because of your support. Doesn't ask for money, but it generates donations because it shows donors, existing donors or non-donors, that, hey, this organization is doing something. They're effective, right? And they're achieving these outcomes, and it's all because of me. So getting these clips out frequently, as often as you can, it's great content. It's so much better content than the usual social media content that we put out there that's maybe an inspirational quote or a press release or an event invitation. No, we should be using these channels and email too. It doesn't just have to be social media, as a way to get these stories out as frequently as possible. To me, this should be the crux of your video strategy. I would even consider moving this to number 1 instead of number 2, because everyone can do this. I know it's going to be harder for some organizations. I know I've showed a lot of kids and dogs and animals and horses, and it's kind of unfair in a lot of ways. But you can do testimonials, right? Testimonials are just as good. The great thing about this testimonial is they made it, right? This is the person holding the cell phone in front of their face. They shot it themselves, and they send it off to the nonprofit. They send it off to the communications team, and they are the ones who distributed it. We'll talk about crowdsourcing a little bit later on. But it doesn't have to be you making these things, right? You don't have to sit on a mountain for 3 days and wait for a marmot to come up. It can be something that you just sit out there and wait for it to happen. But journalism, right? You kind of have to think like a journalist in a lot of ways and just kind of keep your eyes open for those mission moments. Now, let's talk about videos that you should consider creating professionally, having someone come out and make for you, paying someone to make these videos. So I know I have been kind of making fun of the About Us video. I think it's okay. There are ways to make good About Us videos, those generic overview videos. Make it donor-centric. I think the key here is to make it donor-centric. So often it's a board member, it's the ED being interviewed. This is the history of the organization. This is why I founded the organization. Those are good videos. Usually what happens is an About Us video is actually like 5 or 6 good videos crammed together in 5 minutes. But it's okay to have a video of the ED explaining the history of the organization. Let's pull that clip out and use it strategically in different places. Let's pull out a board member, his segment or her segment talking about why they support the organization. Let's pull out that volunteer interview where they say, oh, I love volunteering here. It's so rewarding. I've been doing it for 20 years. Let's pull that out. Let's pull these videos out and make 5 or 6 little videos that can be used for very specific purposes rather than one About Us video that touches on all of those topics and tries to do it all justice in 3 to 5 minutes. The event video. Now, this is something that I have a lot of experience creating. This is a really good video. This is a video that you show at your gala, at your fundraising dinner, at your black tie dinner. You show this video right before the table captains tell everyone to get out their checkbooks. This is a video that's a tearjerker in a lot of ways. This is the video that gets people to open up their pocketbooks, their purses, their checkbooks. It's a good video to make. This is usually an interview with a service recipient, maybe them telling their story. Hey, I had this need, this nonprofit, rescued me, and now I'm back on my feet. Please consider giving today. That's all that video needs to be. Now, it's not enough just to make that video, but how you show it is really important. I remember one time I made a video like that. It was beautiful. I was so proud of it. It was 3 minutes. No one who saw it was able to hold back the tears. We got to the event, they queued it up, they showed it, and then they have this boring old board member come up on stage and give a 20-minute long speech, and everyone forgot that they had just watched that video. And they didn't ask for money. They didn't say, hey, now is the time to make your pledge. So they kind of ruined it. So how you actually package and show that video can be just as important as the video itself. So don't be afraid to make that video. That is something that you probably shouldn't shoot on a cell phone or a webcam. You might want to have a professional come out and make that video. Definitely worth the investment. But remember, that video is just for that event. It is just for the people who came to that gala primarily. Now afterwards, maybe you repurpose it and use it in other ways for other things, but it should be made with that one event in mind specifically. A volunteer orientation video. So we went volunteering here at Bloomerang at a food bank, and we all showed up at the food bank. We were ready to go, and they sat us down in a conference room, and they showed us a video. And this video was made for new volunteers specifically. It was a video that just kind of explains, hey, this is what you're going to be doing today. These are the ground rules. These are the things you can do and can't do. These are the best ways to accomplish what you're going to do today. And we thank you for your support. That's a great video. That can be a time saver. You don't have to have somebody come out and give the same 20-minute presentation every single time you have a volunteer group come in. Great video to have. That may be something you want to consider having professionally produced. That one maybe you could pull off with your own equipment, your own cell phone, but you might want to make a good impression to that group and make it super polished for sure. Okay, another one, a specific, possibly high-capacity donor segment video. So let me break this down for you. I was part of a capital campaign for Butler University here in Indianapolis, and we created a 20-minute video that was specifically targeted for alumni of Butler who graduated between, I think it was 1945 and 1960. So it was like a baby boomer video, basically, because we knew that they probably had higher capacity. Maybe they were thinking about plan giving and bequests and things like that. So we made a video as part of a capital campaign that was just for that age group, right? And so what we did is we collected, memorabilia and old footage of the university from that time period. And the goal of that was to kind of get them thinking about their time there, 30, 40 years ago when they were a student. And, hey, we want you to support the next generation so that they have a great experience just like you did. So we had, like, black and white footage and people, at, sock hops and, drive-in movie theaters and those kinds of things you think of when you think of the 1950s. We had old footage of the campus and the kids back from that day. It's a great video. It raised so many millions of dollars. I think the entire capital campaign was like $68 million. If someone perhaps is listening from Butler University and can correct me on that, please do. That's just what I kind of remember. But this video was just made. My point is it was just made for that specific donor segment. So again, don't make a video. Don't make a capital campaign video. Make several capital campaign videos that go to different types of donor segments that is just for them. And then the last thing, this is kind of a professionally produced mission moment. So if you have someone that you might want to interview who went through your program or received services from you, sit them down, do a nice interview, and maybe interlace some pictures or video, B-roll with them talking about their experience. Those videos are great. Make a ton of those. Make 15, make 20, make 50 of them. Those are great. Those are things that are pretty durable in a lot of ways, and they're also something that you can use for lots of different types of campaigns. They can be put in a thank you email. They could be put in an ask. That's something you might want to have somebody come out and just, set up a camera for a day, and you bring in 15 people, and they all get interviewed over the course of a day. That's something good you might want to produce. But definitely stop doing the year-end, summary video, the event recap video. Remember, event videos are great, but they're for during the event or to promote the event. They're not for after the event. Don't do that after event video. I think that's really weird and not very useful. So what this requires of you is a couple of things. You definitely need to define your audiences, right? Is it first-time donors? Is it monthly donors? Is it donors over a certain dollar amount? Is it donors who have been giving for a certain number of years? Those are the things you're going to have to kind of decide for yourself because it's not going to apply to everyone. I think first-time donors is probably pretty universal. You might want to consider that segment, but your dollar amount threshold is maybe going to be different from somebody else listening today. Frequency and recency is going to be different for you today. You're also going to need, so you need your audience, talk about that. You're also going to need a list of potential moments that you want to capture. So this is where you're going to kind of maybe predict the type of things that you might want to produce. The goal is not to go out and try to reenact or generate that moment from happening, but just be aware of the types of moments you might want to receive. The goal here is that you give that list of ideas to other people in your organization, specifically maybe your volunteer or your program staff, because they might be able to capture that information for you, right? Maybe they can get it for you as that happens. So if you're an animal shelter, hey, when someone adopts an animal, when a new animal is brought in, when an animal has some sort of milestone or breakthrough, maybe they take their first steps or they're on the mend, they get a cast taken off. But all those things, you should be able to have a brainstorming session. You should be able to create a pretty long list with a little bit of work there. But make that list and then tell people, hey, these are the kinds of things we want to capture and tell our supporters about as they happen. So if you're a school, it's graduations, it's all the things. I don't need to list all these things. I think you guys get it, but all the things that can possibly happen in and around your organization. Then, for the professionally produced videos, you need those use cases. What are those things? Do we have volunteers who come in? Maybe we need the volunteer orientation video. Do we do an annual gala every year? We need that video that we show at the gala right before the ask, right? Maybe there's some other thing we haven't talked about that you have a specific need for, a capital campaign, an online day of giving, Giving Tuesday, year-end, fiscal year-end. If you have events that are specific to you, make a list of those use cases. And then what you can do is kind of cross-reference them with your audience list. And once you do that, you're going to be able to plan a really effective video that is just for that one recipient or that one group of people. So for the story library, think of your service recipients. I think all of you have these stories in your head, but so often we don't document them. We don't put them down in one place. And if somebody in the organization leaves or there's turnover and they're the only people who know of those things, all that information gets lost, right? So think of longtime supporters, board members, volunteers, longtime donors, service recipients that have had, a considerably transformational experience. Hopefully all of them are having transformational experiences, but I know all of you listening are probably thinking maybe like one or two people right now. They're like, oh yeah, that's a great story. We need to get that on camera. So document, spend some time of writing these things down and brainstorming who are those people that maybe we could put on camera and use in those professional videos. But make a list of those potential story ideas, because you all have stories, I know you do, but get them down on paper for sure. And then when you start to produce a video or maybe start to plan a video, this is the actual document I used when I worked at that marketing agency, and we would do this as an exercise in the first meeting when someone would approach us and say, hey, we want to make a video, or somebody told us to make a video, we're not sure. Who's the target audience? What's the objective? What do you want people to do after watching the video? Do you want them to donate? Do you want them to feel a certain way? Do you want them to feel that they are appreciated? What is the outcome of the actual video? So often we go into a video production, we don't ask these questions. We just say, we need a gala video, we need an about us video. Who is this actually for? What do we want them to do? How do we want them to feel? What kind of results do you want? Where is this going to go? Is it going to go on our website? Is it just going to go out on Facebook? Is it going to be shown at an event? Is there anything that we need to address specifically in this video? Any issues that maybe people are thinking about that we need to, nip in the bud right away? Go through this planning exercise. The video is going to be so much better for it. I think any production company or agency that you interview or maybe potentially hire, any of them worth their salt should take you through an exercise like this. If they don't, if they just show up with the camera and say, okay, we're ready to go, you might want to reconsider using them. But definitely go through this exercise for sure. So it just comes down to who's the audience, what is the story, what is the moment, and how is it going to be used. It really is kind of as simple as that. We don't have to overcomplicate these things by any means. So here's my plan for you. This is a sample plan. This is kind of my takeaway for you. I would consider making videos for these if you want to dip your toes in the water. So first-time donor. I know I've talked a lot about that. It probably will not surprise you to say that's kind of my number one. First-time donors, they have such low retention. It's only 33%, lower than 33%. Let's make videos for first-time donors. Maybe it's a generic video that sits on your online donation confirmation page. Hopefully it's more like Mike from Outreach, who is making one video every single time we get a new donor. I would consider that for sure. Monthly donors. You should have a monthly donor video or an individual video for every single new monthly donor, because these people are the cream of the crop. They're more likely to leave bequests. They're more likely to leave major gifts. They're retained over a long period of time. These are awesome people. Make some videos for them. Repeat donors, very long-time loyal donors, people who have been giving maybe 5 years in a row. If you see that they give, above and beyond what they normally do in terms of like an online day of giving, consider making something special for those people. And then daily sort of mission moments people. Hey, get those mission moments, do those videos out the door basically. This is something that you could do almost daily. Daily Facebook post, a daily tweet. Hey, something really fun happened around the office or around the animal shelter. Daily videos that are disposable. They're 10 seconds long. They're 15 seconds long. You're probably never going to use them again, but that's okay. Grab them. It's the same thing you do for your personal life, right? I think there's a really strong parallel to what we do personally on Facebook or Instagram, right? If your kid, if your infant kid, does something really silly or fun, you're capturing that moment and you're putting that on Instagram. It's a 10-second long video. It's totally disposable. But for some reason, our brands, we don't think that way. We think, we need to produce this nice thing. It needs to be planned and manufactured and constructed. You don't have to think that way. That's definitely appropriate in some cases. But think of how you do it personally. You don't say, it's Wednesday morning, this is when I share my lunchtime video, or it's Thursday afternoon, this is when I share my kid doing something video. No, you just capture them as they happen. And by the way, if those mission moments don't happen, don't go out and try to manufacture them and try to, produce them. Let them happen naturally. Just always be ready to capture them as they happen. So serendipity. Serendipity is kind of my buzzword for today. So maybe you're wondering about equipment. I'm not going to go through my equipment or editing recommendations, but I do have them here in the slides. I'm just going to kind of leave them for you. We're going to get you the slides, so this can be really useful to you. I've got all kinds of ideas on equipment that range from free to super cheap to, maybe a little bit of investment if you want kind of a nice, more polished look. But these are all things that you can get. You're on your own. If you want some tutorials on how to shoot video, how close do I have to stand to somebody? What about lighting and sound? I got some great tutorials here that I have found from great experts. These are not made by me or written by me. They're way better than I could create myself. Check these out if you want to, dip your toes into these things. If you want to record through a webcam, like that outreach video example I shared, there's lots of free tools on here. I really like Vidyard. That's kind of my favorite, but all these are good. Cloud App is good. Your computer may already have these things built in. You may not even have to download something new if you don't want to. But again, don't forget that you can have people produce videos for you. You can have, service recipients, board members, even donors. Donors can give you testimonials. Don't be afraid to reach out to them and say, hey, we know you're a longtime supporter. You've gone through our program. What does it mean to you? Consider making us a quick, cell phone video, webcam video. These videos are going to be so much more effective than anything you could try to produce yourself because they come from the heart, they come right from the horse's mouth, and they're going to be way more authentic than anything that you could, try to manufacture on your own. Video hosting, obviously there's lots of places you can do it, YouTube, Vimeo. This is all for your use. I've got kind of the pros and cons of all of them. Read through the articles I suggest. They're going to help you decide what makes sense for your organization. And then how are you going to get them out the door? That's kind of the big question now. Email is great. I showed you examples of email. It's just a quick link in an email that you send out to people. There are other things you can do. You can be more passive. You can embed videos on website pages. Post donation confirmation pages are good for this as well. It's hard to make them personalized because lots of donors are videos, but it may be something you want to consider for sure. Automated thank you emails can have links to videos for sure. So these are like automated receipts or automated confirmations. Appeals can include links to videos for sure that send someone back to your website. Receipts are just as good. You can put these sort of one-size-fits-all videos in receipts. But just be careful if you want to automate some of these things because, again, these are one-size-fits-all videos, and I've kind of been espousing the dangers of these as we've gone along today. But they can, in some cases, be better than no video at all. Just be careful, be judicious about what you do here, because if someone donates online and they have been a long-time supporter, you don't want that generic video to say, thanks for your first donation or thanks for supporting us for the first time. But be generic in a way that will not offend people for sure. So we're running out of time. I think we're going to go to 12:30, and I want to save some time for questions. But I'm going to bring it back to my first slide, right? It's okay to have lower quality. It's okay to not edit a video. You don't need to run out to Best Buy today or Amazon and get a really nice camera. Your cell phone is probably good enough to do a lot of the things I suggested today. Serendipity. I know I keep saying that word, but just keep your eye out for those moments as they happen, because those things are going to be way more powerful than some moment that you try to manufacture on your own or try to create. Other people can make these videos for you. Don't be afraid to encourage them to do so. And you don't have to ask for money to make money. It can be really powerful to just show impact. That's going to generate donations, maybe even more so than asking for money straight up from people. So if you like this video, like Christina said in the beginning, and like I said as well, this is kind of my job, is creating these types of educational resources. So check out our website if you like this. We've got lots of other things. We've got more case studies. We've got my newsletter. We've got my own webinar series. I do my own webinar series every single Thursday. We bring on a great guest speaker. So you don't have to listen to me for another 90 minutes, but you're going to get some great content from other people that I've chosen to be a speaker. Like Christina said, we do have a special 10% discount for all PANO members. We were doing a promotion through June to up that to 15%. But for you all that have attended this webinar, I'm going to honor that 15% for you folks since you did take 90 minutes out of your day to listen to this. And if you're watching this recording, definitely still applies to you. So if you're interested in maybe exploring Bloomerang as your donor management option, if you're a PANO member, we can cut you a pretty good deal. So just check out our website. Just go to bloomerang.co/PANO. If you want to take advantage of that, you can email me if you want to take advantage of that. Send me a tweet. Let Christina know. We'll definitely make that happen. So we'll get you the recording. We'll get you the slides. We've got other great ebooks that you may enjoy as well. So I'll open it up to questions if there are any. If you've been maybe sitting on your hands, feel free to ask a question now because I'm cool hanging out for a few more minutes. Christina, do you want to say anything before we go? Anything you want to say? You're still there?
I am still here. I just was unmuting there for a sec. I think this was really great. It really helps to bring the focus back to that donor stewardship.
Yeah.
And I think you provide a lot of hopefully easy ways for nonprofits to try putting some things into action rather than some bigger action steps that might take a little bit longer to see results from. I think a lot of the suggestions here should be a little bit easier to implement, hopefully, for people to start seeing something.
I think so.
Mm-hmm. And fun. These kind of things I think are a lot of fun to try getting out there just, with a camera on your phone or whatever else you've got access to and see what you capture.
Yeah, I know my buddy Mike, he just has a ball making these videos. It doesn't feel like a chore to him, and he gets huge ROI out of it. So, I mean, if you want to do one thing today, I mean, I would just consider, hey, pull out a new donor maybe this week and just try making them a little video. It's going to be your first one. It's probably not going to be perfect, but I think you'll see really how easy it is for sure. Well, if there aren't any questions, I know there have been some questions, but I think I answered them along the way. But if you don't think I did, email me. If you want me to look at a video that you made, I'm happy to do that. I kind of geek out over this stuff. But definitely get in touch with me if you think of anything or maybe you want me to look at something. I'm definitely happy to do that. you want to call it a day there, Christina?
We're closing in on 12:30, and if there are no questions,
Okay.
I think we can probably let people sit with the information you shared, and if they do have anything that comes up as they're digesting, you very kindly have shared your contact information, so hopefully people will feel comfortable going right to the source if they do have questions after they sit with everything. It was a lot. 90 minutes is a lot of info, and I think you gave a lot of really great things to think about.
Well, thanks for having me, and I hope you guys have a good conference here coming up in the fall.
Thank you.
And it's always fun to do stuff for PANO. So thanks for having me.
Yeah, absolutely. We love working with you too, Stephen.
All right, my friends. Well, email me if you think of anything, okay?
Thanks very much, Stephen.
All right.